Left over from a project earlier in the year, I've got a few pieces of very, very flexible plywood, and I really fancy doing something with it. I've been toying around with a few ideas, and I think I'm going to make a case with a curved edge to it, something that looks just a little bit kind of interesting. See, I know I want to build a box, but I'm not completely sure what I want to put in it. So what I've done is popped to the supermarket and bought a small kind of Nerf handgun. And so effectively I'm going to make a gun case for this. So to try and get an idea of the size and the shape of this and how it would look and feel, I've made a cardboard prototype. It's a method I haven't really used before, but I think for this type of thing where it's heavily based on aesthetics, I think it's a useful step to go through. And so the idea is it would hug the kind of gun quite closely. I think this is probably going to be split in half, open up kind of clamshell style. And that's something I'll try and kind of cut through and mock up in a minute. But there's still, I'm just trying to work out whether or not it's worthwhile making it a little bit tighter to the gun. So for example, I could kind of cut off the corner there. Might look a little bit weird, it might not, but I might try and cut that off now, see how it looks, and I can always glue back on the piece I've taken off. So unfortunately, I think that just looks a little bit too weird as far as the shape goes. I might need to put the corner back on. So I think I've decided to keep the case fairly simple in its style. So I'm not going to do any kind of fancy corner. So it's just going to be a hinged enclosure like so. And I think I'll have to have some kind of locating pieces in, but this will be kind of optional as and when I build it. The top and the bottom will be made from, I think, 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch MDF, because that's what I've got, which will take up a lot of this height. At the moment it is quite tall. The idea is when that gets lifted off the ground, the gun will sit slightly proud of that. So I've got the pieces cut, I've got the top and the bottom, exactly the same, and I've got pieces of the flexible plywood to go around the sides. I think I'm going to construct this in the same way as I did the cardboard prototype. Make it as a sealed kind of box and then carefully cut around the side to split it into two. That way it should make for a neater fit. So the box is complete. I've sanded it down. I have cleaned up all the edges, and it is now ready to cut in half. I think I'm going to risk the table saw, try and set up the fence, and just try and get a clean cut down the middle, and hopefully that will do the job. So it cut in half really, really neatly. I am very pleased with the way that turned out. The two halves now kind of mate very kind of nicely together. So that's looking good. I've got some little steel hinges which I'm going to place along the back here so it can hinge open and closed as per the cardboard prototype. And I've also glued in a little piece of dowel here as a retaining pin for the trigger guard. But that's still something I'm just playing with at the moment. What's next though is to paint it black. So I'm going to get a coat of paint on it and then see what it looks like from there. So I've given the case a couple of coats of paint, a little bit of primer, and then a few coats of black spray paint. I think I need to give it a little bit more just to patch up some of the areas, but the foam has arrived. I ordered a large sheet of, I think, closed cell foam of some kind, which is cut down and gone in really, really neatly. I've got a couple of layers on the top, one layer on the bottom, and when it closes up, it takes up all the extra space, so it kind of lightly kind of holds this in place. And so I could just need to give it a little bit more paint, and then I can put the hardware back on the box. So I've finished painting this up, and I've attached a couple of magnets as a closing mechanism. So I've decided not to put a lock on. I couldn't think of anything that would look good or match the style. And so I've gone for a couple of magnets in each of the corners, and that forms a pretty decent seal. So it certainly doesn't want to come open, but you can still open it as and when you need. So I've got the central post in here, a couple of layers of foam which have gone in, and the gun sits really, really nicely in the case. Yeah, so as a finished piece, I'm very pleased with this, and I've got my curve in, which is what this was all about to begin with.